We finally have the spoilers for chapter 26, and what appeared to be some nominal chapter to me at first has turned out to be the biggest breaking point in the story so far. Momoshiki has finally returned, and you won't believe what the conversation between him and Boruto was like. If you have watched my last Momoshiki video, you would already know how much on point I was. So instead of going over the usual way of reading out the spoilers, I'm gonna do something different and explain the most exciting segments first, followed by the others. You are getting spoiled either way, so I hope the order doesn't matter. The main highlight of this chapter is the return of Momoshiki, and instead of appearing as a savior to Boruto just like last time, we get to witness his own dimension that Boruto was able to enter by closing his eyes and having some meditation. Upon entering the place which looks similar to the one where he was killed, Momoshiki can be seen chilling on a rock, and that's when the small conversation begins. It starts with him telling Boruto that it's unexpected for him to come and visit him, as it's not something usual. This kinda signifies that Boruto might have never paid a visit to Momoshiki all these years, yet he knew that he could access the internal psyche and talk to him anytime. He then continues to tell him that it seems like he's again stuck in a life or death situation, which is indeed true, considering the threat of Jura. Momoshiki then tells him that he hasn't changed a bit, and his habit of playing with fire has not come to an end. Well, it seems like Momoshiki was actually able to see everything that was happening with Boruto all these years. The next part is something that I believe would need the official translation to make some proper sense. He told Boruto that when Kawaki killed him back then, it ended any chance of him coming back, and now even the revenge he wanted is something that he would never get. Well, we know Boruto was never planning some revenge for Kawaki, so what is Momoshiki referring to? Well, it could be that he simply means he could have taken revenge, but now that omnipotence has happened, even that's not possible. Followed by this, Momoshiki ends up saying something which fulfills my prediction about his fate. He mentions that for someone like him with no purpose left and nowhere to go, the only thing that he could do is to quietly fade away into nothingness. Well, that's exactly what he had predicted about Boruto's fate in chapter 72. And I had also pointed it out in a recent video. So the tables did turn on him, and he's wishing to just fade into nothingness at this point, something that Boruto might have went through if Sarada hadn't sent him the help. Momoshiki then tells him that he's dragging out his existence with no purpose or direction, which is pretty pathetic. So even Momoshiki knows that the way Boruto is going, he will end up dead either way, something that Kashinkoji had also warned him about. But then came the twist that no one was ready for. Boruto said to Momoshiki that there is a reason behind his unexpected visit. Momoshiki asks him to say what it is, and Boruto tells him to take it seriously. He demands the strength of the Otsutsuki, and that's when Momoshiki tells him to just run away, cause there is no way he would do him this much of a favor. But that's when something clicks, and Boruto tells Momoshiki that he has an offer in return that he cannot refuse. So the Otsutsuki lends him an ear, and that's when we get to hear the most shocking part of the chapter. He offers Momoshiki the full control of his body once he's done with defeating Jura with his powers. Well, this just explains a lot of things like why Kawaki was surprised at seeing Boruto use the Kama seal in the future and how he was able to confidently use it. What slithers as a mystery now is the Jogan of Boruto, and how Momoshiki might be the one to reveal the hidden truth of his Otsutsuki power to him in the coming chapters. But things get a bit too confusing, cause if Boruto is fighting Kawaki in future and he's supposed to give his body to Momoshiki once he deals with him, then who would be there to prevent Momoshiki from doing something diabolical like destroying the world or going after the chakra fruit? The deal was made to defeat Jura, but isn't there a chance for Momoshiki to become an even greater threat? Well, Kashinkoji won't be able to see this deal between Boruto and Momoshiki, meaning the prescience ability would fail to predict the timelines from this point. Well, there may be some reveals next month that would clear a lot of mysteries to us. Till then, for a daily dose of theories, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Now the next major thing that happens in the chapter is Himawari training with Kurama. So before we get there, let's look at the cover page and some small initial sequences. Starting off with the chapter cover, where this time we have got Himawari with her new Kurama outfit. Now this is something that was also seen in the sneak peek panel. Usually a character only gets a new apparel once his original outfit gets torn in some battle. That's exactly what happened with Himawari and Inojin, as both of them can be seen wearing new clothes in this chapter. Now here is something that you wouldn't have have expected, Boruto also got injured in the last chapter by Jura's attack, and as we could see in the flash forward, he isn't wearing the same shirt from Two Blue Vortex. Instead, he's wearing a t-shirt, which is likely the one he used to wear back in the day. So if this trend of changing outfit once they turn out in the battle continue, then we might have gotten a battle puzzle piece to solve another time skip mystery. Boruto actually changes his apparel, meaning the time skip designs of episode 1 are gonna remain the same, so eventually we would also get to see Kawaki upgrading to his prologue clothing. Seems like both the Kama and shirt mystery has been solved, so the only mysteries that we are left with now are the Jogan, the village havoc, Kawaki's outfit, and what happened to every shinobi. Well, back to the spoilers, the sneak peek is the first panel of the chapter, and there is no such twist as some Shinju interrupting Konohamaru from reviving Moeki. We get 4 wholesome panels of Moeki being revived and falling into the lap of Konohamaru. This means the Sand Village arc has actually come to a happy ending, with the shinobi succeeding in revitalizing the victims. Gaara also gets hospitalized at the Sand Village, meaning they were successful at unsealing him, and Shinki has also gotten out of the tree. We then have Shikamaru getting informed that the elders are calling him, and as we know what happened last time, it could again be something regarding how Boruto is still alive and all. Seems like the next chapter will be full of drama. So before discussing the most predictable part of the chapter, which is the reconciliation of Sarada and Sumire, let's get over to the mind training of Himawari and how she practices to become stronger by sparring with Kurama. So it seems like she has discovered a new way to train herself, where she submerges within her consciousness to literally have a one-on-one fight with baby Kurama. The Biju doesn't go easy on her, and after seeing how she lacks basic chakra coordination, he tells her to focus on chakra more than the physical body, as she's relying too much upon that by completely neglecting the chakra part. After seeing her not making any progress, Kurama ends the training session quick, meaning she has a long way to go. One thing that I noticed was that Boruto and Himawari were shown to access their inner demons in a similar way in the exact same chapter. This might be building to the Two Blue Vortex narrative, where the Uzumaki siblings could be the two sides of the same coin. Himawari's role is gonna be interesting after Boruto's master plan to defeat Jura with Momoshiki's powers. Looking at how she's still a rookie right now, maybe she will come helpful to fight back the other major threats who would come after the Shinju. A few more notable things in the chapter was the return of Sakura, who tells Moegi that she seems to have a mild case of malnutrition after coming out of that Shinju tree. Rest, her organs and everything are fine. And then we have the part of the chapter which kinda disappointed me, cause first it took so many pages, and second it won't have any huge payoff in the story. I recently read someone saying on Reddit that Sumire could become the next big bad after losing Boruto to Sarada, and considering her dark energy which comes from New, maybe the anime was foreshadowing her ultimate role in the manga. But what this chapter gave us was a freaking reconciliation between both of them, while Aida quietly sneaking at their conversation. In a nutshell, Sarada tells Sumire to lend her a moment, and then she reveals that she's gonna call her with her real name from now, cause it makes her feel fulfilled or stuff like that. Then we have Sarada telling her how she realized she loves Boruto, but this ain't good cause it conflicts with her goal of becoming the Hokage. She then accepts to Sumire that she likes Boruto too, and Aida gives a shocking reaction. I don't understand why they hyped up Sumire so much in the anime, when the only thing that she drives in the manga is a love triangle. Her character had so much potential, which has just died down simply because she sucks at combat, and she cannot be around Boruto or the others in pivotal situations. The only time when she got really useful was when she informed Sarada about the reality shifting. Maybe the whole point of making her immune too was actually for the sake of portraying how love can neglect the effects of omnipotence. Just because they liked an of Suzuki, they became immune from this spell, but here is something confusing that caught my eye. But if Sarada and Sumire had met Aida before Boruto had become an Otsutsuki, would they still have their magical immunity or not? Well, if the answer would be a yes, then maybe there are some other powers at work which have saved them from falling victim to omnipotence. The chapter ends with Sarada and Sumire becoming the best buddies, even though they are in love with the same person. At this point, I don't see Sumire doing something exceptional in the story, but I still wonder why the anime showed her like a wild beast. More importantly, is her backstory from the anime even canon to the manga? Well, if that was the case, then she should have been a bit more impressive, but looking at how her role has been so far, I'm slowly starting to believe that maybe the whole new thing was a way to drive people to the anime, something planned by the anime team and not the authors themselves. Also, half the chapter went with Sarada trying to give Sumire some closure for hurting her feelings, and I really feel like we should have gotten a bit more Momoshiki lore. If only the writers were not that concerned with the love triangle in the story. The Shinju were missing in the chapter, Kawaki was nowhere to be found, no mention of Amaru or what he's up to, and if only Himawari and Momoshiki were not a part of it, then this would have easily become the worst chapter of Two Blue Vortex. But thankfully we got a desirable cliffhanger through Momoshiki that I feel like would help us to fuel some more future predictions more efficiently. Also, another thing that I noticed is that even though it's likely the first time we saw Sakura in the time skip, if I remember correctly, she didn't show any concern for Sasuke or anything like that. Okay, let's say the situation wasn't the best, but at least if you are bringing a character whose husband has been declared as a traitor for helping the real traitor, there could have been some moments of her expressing some optimism on Sasuke's situation. Well, nothing like that happened, but one thing is for sure that the action will shortly begin from the next chapter. Hidari vs Sarada, Demon vs Mamushi, maybe a rescue mission of Koji that I would discuss in the next video. Everything is slowly coming together, so let's look forward to more releases. Also, let me know your opinions in the spoilers down below. You can also check out these videos if you have some time to spare, and I will see you next time.